Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Welcome to episode 156 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me today. Dr. Darian Parker loves running. He loves running so much that he dedicated his life to studying the science behind running. He made it his entire life. He earned his PhD at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas in sports education and is the owner of Parker Personal Training. He's here with us today to talk about that and so much more to help us with our training to train better and smarter, and he'll talk about his own story, which I know you'll find really interesting. And then I have a few races in Tales of the Trail, which I know you'll really enjoy. So first, here is Dr. Darian Parker. Well, you welcome to the program, Dr. Darian Parker. He is a fitness professional executive, and he is also a runner. Hi, Darian. How are you?
I'm good, Martha. And yourself?
Doing very well. Thank you so much. You were a Division I collegiate sprinter, weren't you?
I was. It feels like many moons ago. Yeah.
What was your distance?
I did the 100 and 200 meters. Those are my primary events. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So what was your best time?
My best time was actually in high school. I didn't get faster in college. It was like 10:37. And in college, I was in like the 10:60s. But it was okay. It was pretty decent. I would say I was an average collegiate track and field athlete.
That is so fast. Isn't that incredible? So what distance did you like running the most?
The 100 for sure. I really enjoyed that. It just felt natural. When I was in college, we ran indoor and outdoor tracks. So it was like basically year round. And we would run like the 60-meter dash and all that stuff. But I always like the 100 outdoors the most.
That's nice. It's really cool. I like the elements also. Kind of gives it a little bit more excitement, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was your biggest inspiration when you were a young runner?
I really loved the track and field athlete, Michael Johnson. He's a pretty famous guy. I think first person to do the double, the 200 meters and 400 meters at the Atlanta Olympics. I think it was like 96. I remember watching it on this really tiny TV in my room. And I was really inspired by that, especially because I was going into college at that time as a scholarship athlete. So, you have these kind of Olympic dreams and these hopes and things for that. But I just loved his demeanor, how he carried himself. And that always inspired me.
He was amazing. There were some, I think in the 80s and 90s, there were just some superstar track athletes. They were incredible. I remember him. He was really terrific. For me as a young runner, I think just some of the early marathoners were really, really big. But I remember him. I remember Florence Griffith Joyner. She was incredible. Sure. Oh my goodness.
There's a movie coming out about her. I think
really? Oh, I loved her. We lost her way too soon.
Oh, what an amazing talent. And
I know.
Seemed like a person too,
Oh yeah. And the fact that you couldn't dress up as she did unless you were as good as she was.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was your most memorable race?
My last race was my most memorable race ever. It was 2000, year 2000, kind of a funny year, right? Started 96, was my first year of eligibility and finished in 2000. And we was at the IC4A, which is kind of an East Coast Championships race. And the first year, I went to James Madison University and we were like last. We were pretty bad. And then the last year, my last race, we won the entire championship. Wow. So from last to first, in my last race, I won. So that was very memorable. And it was kind of hard in the same sense because I knew it was over. It's not like I knew that I wasn't going to become a professional runner or anything like that. And that I had spent all this time training, just constant training for 4 years. It's a huge grind. And then that was going to be over. So it was it was nice, but it was difficult at the same time.
It certainly taught you that you could do just about anything.
Yeah, runners are special people. I really think, it's to people who aren't necessarily aware of the training for runners, it is a contact sport on some level, and you're contacting with the ground, and all that energy is coming back into you, and all the mileage and all the time you spend running. Whether you're a sprinter or a distance runner, you spend a lot of time running. And it's a very, when I was in college, you're running with other teammates all the time. So it wasn't solitary. It was just like running in a pack, and you're with those pack members constantly on a regular basis throughout 4 years. So, I have a lot of respect for runners because it's hard on your body, running that much, and you're tired and trying to improve just a little bit, but training a megaton for that little bit of change,
Mm-hmm. I think runners are just about the most supportive athletes. They just lift each other up so much.
Yeah. Yeah, runners are amazing. I mean, it's great to be a part of. When I was in college, especially, I'm on a team with like 70, 80 people, and it functions like its own small community of different ideas and different people. You're running all these different events and races, and everybody's coming together. And it's really a team in the sense of that you're doing so many different things together. It was really interesting to be a part of that.
That's true. That's amazing. What a excellent memory to have.
Yeah.
That's so great. Do you still run?
I do. I still do, I do some distance running, but a lot of it is like sprint interval stuff that I used to do in college. It's a great workout to do. And I think once you've been a runner, it's hard to get it out of your system. It's just running always came natural to me my whole life. My parents said, at one point back in the day, they went to Atlantic City, and I just was running on the boardwalk when I was a little kid, and all I did was run all the time. So I guess it was kind of a thing that was going to happen for me,
That's true. Well, you see little kids, they're all running. They all run all over. And it's like, at what point do they stop running or not want to run? It seems like kids are just natural runners. And somehow at one point in life, it makes it's not fun anymore. And I don't know.
It's interesting. In my educational background with, exercise science and all of this, there's lots of, hypotheses about this and stuff like that. But it's interesting about how as children get older, they get further away from the ground. And as kids play on the ground, they crawl and stuff. My daughter's always like messing up pants and getting holes in it and stuff. And, and at some point that becomes a thing of the past. And then as we become older and older as adults, we get further away from the ground, and then we get further away from being really active and really pushing ourselves and seeing what we're made of physically for that. And, there's a lot of influences, where you live, the people around you who raised you, the organizations you're part of or not part of. It's really a multifactorial thing.
That's true. And there's that saying, which kind of, it gives a lot of the reasons why kids grow up not liking to run is our sport is your sport's punishment.
Yeah.
So
punitive.
You use running as a punishment, and kids aren't definitely not going to like that.
Yeah. Forever it's been punitive, and at other sports it was like you messed up or you didn't do well, so go run some laps. Anytime you stigmatize something with a punitive or punishment based thing, then people obviously don't want to do it.
Right. Exactly. So was there any distance that you didn't race in school that you would have liked to have tried?
No, actually, no. I kind of knew what I was really good at. And if I did do things that were maybe longer, it was just more recreational in nature for it. But I still really enjoy opening things up, and really pushing myself. Whether, and I'm not a person who's like some runners, I used to coach runners a lot and stuff, and obviously was a runner. There's a segment of runners who are like, I would never run on a treadmill or do different things. It's all a stimulus. As someone who has been in fitness forever, as a business, it's really about stimulus, response, and recovery. It doesn't matter what type of implement it is. If it's running on a treadmill, running in water, running on the street versus running on a trail, a grass, it's all different surfaces and different stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever makes you feel like it opens you up and then you feel challenged, and that's fine, for that.
Here, and you also get it in Washington State, we get wildfire seasons, and that's the only time of year where I won't go outside and run.
Right.
Is wildfire season, because I'll run in the rain or whatever, it doesn't matter. But in wildfire season, you really can't. When it's too smoky. So that's the only time that you'll ever catch me on a treadmill. But you still got to get your run in, so you got to go. Sure. So I'll find a treadmill somewhere, and that's the only time that I'll do it. I mean, it's boring, but you got to get it done, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's just, it's interesting. Running is very interesting to me, and as I've watched it throughout the years progress. When I was a collegiate athlete, a runner, there was like Walkman, you had like a Walkman,
mm-hmm.
and, or you had, maybe it was the beginning of like iPods and stuff like that. And, but I never got used to like listening to something when I ran, and I never got the feeling I was bored, because I just got used to listening to my body when I ran, or listening to my footsteps, or running with a pack of people and hearing the cadence of other people
right
while I'm running, or listening to the wind and stuff. And I see now it's interesting. I've tried like to listen to music or listen to podcasts when I run. I find it like incredibly distracting for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep going back to it, Martha. Like I keep trying. It's not like it's a one-off. I've probably tried 30 times. Like a couple of weeks ago, I did it again. I was like, all right, I'm going to run. I'm going to wear these AirPods and stuff. And like within 2 minutes, I was like, this is bothering me. I was like, I need the silence. I want to hear my, my feet move. And I know that's everybody has different ways they get stimulated, or how they like to get into the zone, or, to make it less distracting. But it's funny for me. I don't want the distraction. I want to feel the challenge, the strenuousness of it.
Right. That's a really, really nice way of thinking about it too. I do listen to music or something when I'm running on the roads, because I just find that it's a little monotonous for me, because I prefer trail running. And but on trails, I would never even think about listening to music, because I listen to the music of nature. Because when you're out on the trails, I love the sound of feet in dirt. That is just such a neat sound. I know that clog, that sound. And then you hear the wind in the trees, or you hear the birds. Yeah. And it's dangerous to listen to music, because you might not hear a rattlesnake, or you might, you might not hear that mountain biker coming down the trail, or you might, you got to hear things. But it's such a beautiful sound being out there on the trail. It's just so comforting to me that I would never want to listen to music out there. But if I'm running now I live in downtown San Francisco, so just to get away from the sound of the traffic and get that, I listen to music, because I don't want to hear cars all day.
Sure. Yeah. No, I totally get that. It's man, I've tried. It's just there's something about it. I get going, I hear, and I'm playing like my favorite stuff. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. Maybe I'll do stuff with just instrumentals, And for some reason, I'm just like, there's something like in my ear. It's bothering me, Like,
well, you found your zone. You found what you like, and it works.
Yeah.
Why change it?
Yeah. So
absolutely.
It's just like, I got to stop trying to fit like, a square peg in a round hole here, It's like, just go with it,
Exactly. So when did you decide to turn your love of fitness and running into a career?
Pretty early. I knew that I wanted to be in the fitness business when I was a runner in college. I was one of those folks that and this is crazy. I recognize this is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like after 3-4 hours of running and weightlifting and the whole deal, I would go to our recreational gym on campus and I would work out some more. Mm-hmm. And I just loved, I like pushing myself. I knew there's a space when it feels like quitting and it feels like I'm not sure how much I can give. I like being in that space. I know it's very weird and uncomfortable. And I know a lot of people may not identify with that feeling, but I feel like that's where I figure out what I'm made of a lot of the time. And so initially my feelings about being in the business were just because I really enjoyed moving my body regularly, challenging my body. And then as I got into it, maybe the first couple of years, I realized the real reason I'm in is because it's just a great way to meet people. And it's a great way to serve other people and to help them to do what is going to help them feel confident and help them feel like they can go about their day and accomplish things. It's a great relationship builder being in the fitness business. So I kind of flipped it on the other end. The exercise is almost secondary. The relationship building is number one. I've figured out after 21 years.
That's an excellent way to look at it too. It really is. It makes people feel better. It makes them live better lives.
Most definitely. And I think often when people work with me, they come at it in the way that I came at it initially, was about body and the physical aspects of things. But people stay with you because of the feeling you give them and the consistency behind that. Mm-hmm. And I find that principle, you can adapt that to anything in your life. If you want to have better friendships, better partnerships with people, better business relationships, it's how you make people feel about themselves, how you serve them and give to them and lift them up. And if you can do that with other people, you'll pretty much have a lot of success. Whatever success means for you, there'll be a lot of positive things that'll happen in whatever you're doing.
That's true. So your PhD is in sports and exercise settings. Can you explain what that is precisely?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I did my doctorate, sports education leadership with emphasis in behavior modification in sports and exercise settings. So essentially helping people to create an intervention to be consistent in their habit of exercise or physical activity for that. So recognizing here's where I'm currently at in my sports or exercise or physical activity based activities. Mm-hmm. And here's where I want to be. And here's the intervention that I need to do in order to remain consistent or start this activity.
Okay. Well, that's a really great topic to talk about at the end of the year too.
Yeah.
Because people are thinking about the new year and what they want to accomplish in the next year. So why do most people's New Year's fitness resolutions fail? Big question, man. Right?
Yeah. Again, I feel like it's one of these things it's multifactorial, but I think it's good to discuss the different reasons why. One, usually because there's no accountability. And one of the really difficult things about exercise or physical activity. Let me preface this. Those are two different things. There a lot of times as people, we interchange those things like they're the same thing. They're two completely different things. Exercise and physical activity are not the same thing for that. So it's important to understand the definitions. One is creating a stimulus that is greater than you're used to for the purpose of health. The other one is you may have started as exercise, and then if you didn't create a stimulus regularly, it becomes physical activity or essentially a maintenance program. Mm-hmm. For that. You're no longer providing creating a different variable to create different stimulus to increase increase or improve in different areas. So that's one area. You may be starting a program, but you don't actually know what it is. Is it a physical activity program or exercise? Makes a big difference if you know which one you're actually getting into, or is it just movement, which is like daily activities? The other thing, as I said, is accountability. We struggle because it's our own bodies, and we think this is my body. I should be able to take care of my body and do the things I need to do to move it effectively and get it to improve effectively. But the reality of it is only 15 to 18% of the population exercises regularly or does physical activity regularly. That number hasn't changed in over 30 years for that. So Michelle tells me that most people are in heavy need of some sort of intervention, whether that be working with a professional, finding a good site or a good mentor, having a friend to work out, whatever it may be. People need accountability often to be consistent in what they're doing for that. So accountability, understanding the definition of the things you're actually trying to do is really important. The other thing is this for like a short-term thing? Often people fail because they're exercising or doing physical activity or movement for a specified cliff point. So what I mean by that is whether that's for a vacation, for a wedding, for some seasonal event, which is often if you're doing it just for that, you haven't created a long-term plan to sustain whatever the activity you're going to enter into. So our culture has often exacerbated this or pushed this notion of this 30-day, 60-day, 90-day mentality to getting in better condition, which is completely wrong and completely sets people up to fail for that. Instead of pushing, this is a lifelong activity. That will require, if you want to improve, consistent increase in stimuli in order to create an improvement. The other thing why people fail, and probably the one that is least known by the public, is that biologically and anthropologically, exercise or physical activity is completely foreign in the way it's currently done. So there's tremendous research, especially by Dr. Daniel Lieberman from Harvard. It's a great book, great recommendation called Exercised. Great for runners, especially. It's really awesome. And it talks about how hunter-gatherer societies in the past and current hunter-gatherer societies, most of what we've done biologically throughout our history is to expend our calories on things like hunting, reproduction, tubing, digging, chasing, evading. We never had to worry about our health and fitness because it was part of our daily survival mechanism. And most humans no longer have to survive physically on a daily basis or find their own food or figure out, hunt or evade things. People are safer in that sense. So because of that, we've traded convenience. We've traded our convenience, and all of a sudden we have to make time and be deliberate about doing exercise, physical activity, or movement. And unfortunately, the increase in technology it's taken a lot of the activity out of living. So those are a long-winded way of saying why people don't stay connected to it.
No, those are all really, really good explanations for it, especially because what we do, going to a gym and working out, that's nothing of what our early ancestors did. However, if you're going out and walking or running, maybe the walking is more like what they used to do. Yeah. Maybe that's more of a natural thing.
Yeah. And I think being outside and, hunting over many, many days, the endurance of that was a fairly common thing. Mm-hmm. And also that there were certain things nutritionally you could only get every once in a while. So let's say like meat, most people can get meat pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. Back then, it may be weeks and weeks until you actually had meat because you had to spend the time actually hunting for the meat and breaking it down. All those things. So that, getting food was much more difficult for our ancestors than it is for us today, where we have the modern conveniences of like Uber Eats and Postmates and all these things and DoorDash, which while very convenient, we're providing a trade-off. We're taking more and more activity out of our living for that. And so it's actually a scary thought in my mind of where we're headed. There's also really good research that recently came out that indicates that people are way less active than they were 200 years ago. And I think to myself, I'm not sure that's going to change in a positive direction in the next 100 years, the way things are going.
Probably not. But when you say over days of activity, it also makes me think, maybe do more multi-day ultra races.
Yeah, that's a different kind of person doing those things too.
Yes, they are. Well, I've done a few ultra races, and it there's a lot of pain involved, but it's really fun.
Yeah, and I think those things, like, I like those things. I feel like it's certainly not indicative of the majority of the population.
Oh no, of course not.
Things. It's certainly more of an extreme level thing.
Yeah.
And I think what the hard thing about our society is we're trying to really get to the heart of the general population.
Yeah.
Which is not doing those things or isn't doing what I'm doing. And that's the tricky thing about it, What
I love seeing though, especially like in Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the biggest running day of the year.
Oh yeah.
And what I love seeing are all the 5Ks out there with the families and getting the kids involved. Yeah. And I love seeing these 5K fun runs. That makes me happy to see these kids getting involved with going out with their families. And now they'll have these holiday 5Ks, these jingle 5Ks and all this fun stuff. And if you can get the kids involved and maybe it isn't expensive, they can get a medal, maybe they get a Santa hat or something like that, and introduce them into something fun and early. Maybe they'll be more interested in it later on.
Yeah, I think like most things, it starts really early.
Yeah.
And what are the influences in your life? What's the environment you're in? Where do you live? There's tons of really interesting research on zip code health and geopsychology, which is really interesting. And, if you live in, let's say, Colorado, which is a very outdoorsy state, hugely running centric state, mountaineering, all that stuff, and you grow up in that, you're more likely to participate in those things versus if you're in a state where that is not emphasized at all or very little. It may be just a much larger uphill battle for you to get into these activities.
Yeah. And thankfully, I can't talk right now. Thankfully, there's a lot more outreach programs too. I think people are getting more involved in things and getting a lot more youth, out in running and into more running programs. I know there's a running program out in the East Bay trying to get kids out into the trails, because right in Oakland, in the Oakland Hills, there's these beautiful trails right up in the hills, and trying to get, kids they can just go right up on the bus and just go in these hills and see some part of nature that maybe they didn't even know existed. So,
Most definitely. Yeah. I think running is an awesome thing to do. I really do. It's been part of my life forever. Mm-hmm. And, I think mainly I've always enjoyed it because it felt like it was a place I could go on my own.
Exactly.
And I could be quiet. Mm-hmm. And not have to deal with things going on in my life especially when I was younger. And I think now, it still may be some element of that, but I just enjoy pushing myself. I think running provides a great opportunity to expand your rib cage and your lungs, to breathe heavily. Yeah. And I think that's really important. My own personal view, and from a scientific view, it's incredibly important as well.
Definitely. When you're working with people to encourage them in running, what are some ways runners can have, like say distance runners or things, can help keep their workouts fresh?
Well, one of the things, especially if I'm talking to, I've coached running athletes, running and marathons and all that stuff, to your recreational person for that. Just providing them a lot of variety. That's the great thing about being a collegiate athlete. You get like a mega ton of variety in workouts over the course of the year. So, you're doing everything from fartleks to speed endurance, sprint workouts, pure endurance, hill running, you're doing water running. You're just doing a variety of things. So often I will just give people a lot of different ways. Like, for instance, I was on a plane going to Las Vegas. I go there once a month for business, and, was sitting, which is funny that we're talking, is so this lady sits next to me, and she looked pretty fit, and she looks at me, and she goes, hey, how you doing on the plane? I'm like, oh, I'm good. And And she's like, oh, you look pretty fit. I was like, yeah, I'm in the business. So she's like, well, I run triathlons and do all that stuff and swim and the whole thing. But she was very indicative of a lot of people I meet that are doing that stuff on their own that don't have coaching, is they tend to do the same thing over and over again. They do run for 10 miles, swim for a certain amount, bike for a certain amount, not a lot of variation. And so she's dealing with some injuries with her running in particular. And I said, you need to get, you need to get off your feet a little more often. And she's, oh, but I need to run for these things. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you should start doing water running, deep water running. So there's tremendous amount of research that indicates the effectiveness of deep water running in conjunction with the land-based program, that you have at least the same or increased performance with your times for it. We did it all the time in college. It was a big part of our running program. And I believe it really helps you, whether you're healthy or if you're injured. You can put a water and deep water running for like 6 to 8 weeks, and they can come back and perform extremely well. So it's like things like that. I would introduce people into just different training methods, different methodology, how to construct a workout, the rest times versus the work ratios. Not everybody's familiar with work to rest ratios completely. The volume that may be appropriate for you versus someone else. There's different things like that. Other aspects would be recovery. With runners, recovery is really important. And one thing I found out with my distance runners all the time, distance runners are a bit more fanatical about running than sprinters.
Yes, they are.
I say bit, I'm being nice about that. Distance runners, it's a lifestyle for distance runners.
It is.
Generally, it becomes a very big part of their identity. Whereas sprinters, not so much. It's kind of just do it because you like winning, but you're not like into running super like that much, But I knew this early on, but it's just saying like recovery is going to be incredibly important for you when you're running 10, 20, 30, 40 miles, and understanding what your limits are, what your super compensation levels, how quickly you recover, understanding how that changes at the older you get. What are the different recovery modalities that you could invest in that will help you to train more effectively, understanding heart rate variability, all the things that are out there in the market that will help you know if you're actually ready to run or work out today, or whether you need to take a day off, just stuff like that.
That's true. I think flexibility is so important in your training program. And I've heard that from you and so many other trainers and fitness professionals, that we have to be flexible with our training plans. We can't be so rigid.
Yeah, which I have found can be very difficult with distance runners, honestly.
That's true.
I'm going to be very transparent about it, but I think you have to have flexibility. Everything can't be an easy 10 or, running a marathon all the time. These are things that maybe if you watch a documentary and somebody runs a marathon a month, it sounds glamorous. It's actually not really smart for you to do.
Yeah.
And as you age, it's, maybe that person's doing it for a certain thing or whatever, or publicity or for a cause. And that's great and everything, but it's really difficult on your body. And especially if and now those people have a team of people recovering them all the time and all this stuff. You may not have that. You've got to be really smart how you mix up your workouts and create different stimuli, but how do you recover appropriately so that you're not getting injuries? One thing, runners get a lot of injuries over time.
Yeah, they do. And not everybody's Dean Karnazes. Not everybody can do that.
No, not everyone's the Iron Cowboy or all this stuff.
Exactly.
Some people are made of different stuff, and they are just incredible, and they can come back very quickly. That's a small percentage of the population. So you got to know yourself.
Exactly. So what's a few ideas you want your students to take away from your classes?
I think the biggest thing, especially for people who are runners and love exercise or physical activity, like they're very consistent, especially, is that you don't have to do a crazy amount of it to be in your best condition. And again, I'm talking to you distance runners. Okay? Often and this is not just my opinion, there's a tremendous amount of research with this. We know this through different colleges and universities. For example, with the University of Michigan did some great studies back in the day about swimmers and two-a-days And distance runners do the same thing, run in the morning, run in the evening, the whole type of thing. And often what we see is when we add so much volume, it becomes diminishing returns with that second workout with that. And so really you're just doing that maybe because you feel like you need to do it. Maybe it's a psychological thing, but physically it may actually be doing nothing for you for that. So I think understanding, like, if you have a very serious behavior of running, you need to be careful about the volume of running, and also that you need to have diversity within your training program. A lot of runners often are just runners. They really don't do much else besides running. And so you need to invest into strengthening your body, which is critically important. Doing functional based training, muscular endurance, muscular strength, incorporating all those things to buffer your body and not just be a runner. It's not just for that, but it's for your life, for your lifestyle, that you're making sure you're addressing all the systems that are not just your cardiovascular system, where that's really incredibly important for that. For new runners or new exercisers, people getting into it, is to take your time. Be very conservative in how you begin. Especially for runners, don't start the first day doing like 20 miles. Like that, you're going to feel the worst you've ever felt in your life. And it may discourage you from actually doing more of it down the line. So take a progressive, gradual overload approach. Start with a certain duration or distance, certain intensity, then slowly move your way up to that. So kind of for my newer people, gradually overload, continue to move up slowly. For the more seasoned people, may be careful of how much volume you're doing because you really love doing it, but you got to be careful. A lot of the results come from the time when you're not running, actually. And the body changes and makes adaptations to times that you're not running. So you put the stimulus of whatever distance you're running and you gradually overload that. In between the recovery is where the change happens. But if you're constantly banging your head against the wall, nothing's going to happen. I kind of use this analogy. It's kind of a crude one, but I think it makes sense for a lot of people. If a door swung and hit you in the face and your face created and you had a bruise on your face, would you keep hitting your face with the door? What would happen to your face? It would get worse and worse, and the swelling would get greater and greater. The same thing happens with inside your body. You just don't see it because it's not visible to you. But that's what you're doing. You're hitting yourself in the face over and over again. And you go, well, I run every day. I'm like, that's the problem. I'm like, that's the problem. It's a diminishing return. You're not allowing the repair to happen or the changes to occur that will improve your performance.
Exactly. Yeah, that's you have to be very honest and real with us. We don't get it. It's true.
Of course. I think true. You have to be transparent about it. Mm-hmm. I apply the same thing to my training. I'm very careful about how much volume I put on my body as I've aged and what works best, and be willing to change. You got to be willing to change. You may not be able to run a certain distance forever.
No, no. And we slow down a little bit as we get older but the thing is, as you get older, you can do a little bit more distance. You just have to do it a little slower. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. You can still keep doing it, but maybe not at the volume you did it before. Maybe you're running a lot more races in your 20s and 30s, and maybe you do less races in your whatever it is. It's just it's all variables, and how you change those variables will determine how long you'll continue to do it.
See, as you get older, Darian, you can join us in the ultras. See,
yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping for.
It's amazing. I run with people in their 70s and 80s. They just go a little slower. That's all.
Yeah,
and they're very healthy.
Wrong with that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's terrific. It makes me really happy to see them out there, and they're never hurt or sick or anything. And it's like they do it right. Whatever they're doing it right.
Yeah. And, I was focused on I grew up in a very highly competitive environment. And then when I was in college, you're only around people that are as fit as you. Or, they're high performers. And sometimes it messes with how the world actually is in your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I love to do this and I'm working out hard and stuff. But I try to have a very good thing that I am in a very different situation than someone else.
Sure.
And while like we're runners and we love to run and people are doing all these distances and stuff, the majority of people aren't.
Yeah.
And so I like to like, hey, if you want to get into this, don't feel like you need to be where I'm at or this person's at on day one. Just start where you can start. You're okay where you're at, and then progressively get better over time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I spent a few years training beginning runners, and it was really fun working with them because we start walking and we'd run just a block, and then we'd walk, then we'd run a block and walk. And it was just fun watching them progress just every week, just little by little by little. That was really fun until they could run a whole mile. And that was just really exciting. Yep. It was really fun. Just little progress. It was cool.
All that is progressive overload.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Little by little. And behavior is shaping a behavior. Small little victories lead to large ones over time.
Yeah, it was fun. It's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was excellent and got a lot of information here. There's just a lot packed in here. And I know that the Martha Runs the World listeners will absolutely love this because they eat up this information very much. They're very smart.
Awesome.
See,
that's really awesome.
Yes, very much. And I thank you so much for being on the show. And I know that everything. What do you have planned in the new year?
Well, I got several things that I'm working on. Like I say, I have a few businesses. One is my personal training business that I've been going for 21 years at this point. And then I have a spa, fitness and recreation and consulting and management company that I co-own with a buddy of mine. So that's always a work in progress. And then actually we're in a beta phase right now where we are bringing on members, but in January, officially launching a new social media platform actually called F.em.
And excellent.
I'm not really into the social media that much. I don't know. There's something about it never clicked for me so much, but I do like the concept of it. I feel like it could be done better and be more soul nourishing, humility based, more kind, more supportive,
right,
more uplifting. And I experienced that as a runner. So we just launched it kind of in the beta phase. We got some members in. It's a very unique place because, you come on and everybody just celebrates the fact that you're there. They lift you up. They care about you, want to know about you. Charity is a big part. So it's a membership based site. So people actually pay to be on this social media site, which is very different from what's out there. And a portion of each person's membership goes to different charities that we're aligned with. So you're giving back at the same time while being part of something really cool. So, that's ongoing right now. We're really happy. And anyone who wants to get in early on it, we're doing a 7-day free trial just so people can experience the goodness and see if it's something they're into. And then we're going to launch fully in January. So pretty excited about that.
Very cool. We'll have all the links for all that on the website. Yeah. And very, very excellent. And thank you so much. Have an excellent rest of your day and week, and we will look forward to all of that.
Thank you, Martha.
All right. Talk soon. Thank you so much, Darian. That was fascinating. I really enjoyed hearing about your story and to make training better. And I know you're super fast still. I know it's been a few years, but I know you are still super fast. Okay. Now, Tales of the Trail is next. Okay, this week in Tales of the Trail, I have 3 races that I'm going to talk about. The first race is the one that I actually did the 6 hours to, and I want to give 3 finalists, well, we're all finalists because it's just, you go as far as you want to, so it's not like nobody finished. It's not like there was anyone that didn't finish. But in the 24-hour results, 3 of the runners went 100 or more miles. And those 300-mile finishers are Russell Gong. He did 106.9 miles. Cesar Rotundo did 104.8 miles. And Philip Deutschel, I hope I said your name right. I really do. I'm sorry if I didn't. Did 100.7 miles. And again, that was the New Year's one-day race that I talked about in last week's episode. And across the year's race in Phoenix, Arizona, now this race takes place over a few days, and there's all kinds of different times and all kinds of different distances that you can do. They include all these different times, and these include a 240-hour race, 144-hour race, 72-hour race, 48-hour race, 24-hour race, 12-hour race, 6-hour race, and a 100-mile race. If you do the 240-hour race, that's 10 days of running. 10 days. 10 friggin' days of running. That's insane. But some people did do that. Many people attempted it. Lots and lots of people attempted it. Lots of people did over 600 miles. Well, not lots, I should say. 3 runners ran over 600 miles. 600 miles. That's spectacular. That's mind-blowing. My mind is blown. It's blown. It's blown away. This is just so incredible to me. And this is running around a high school track in the cold, in the winter cold of Arizona. And it gets very cold there in the winter. In the winter cold, for 10 days they ran. Remember when you had to run a lap or two around the track in high school and you hated it? Well, I hated it. But so this is 10 days of it. Those 3 runners that did over 600 miles in 10 days in the cold of Arizona in the winter are Bajargal Bayamba, did 690 miles, actually 690.471 miles. That's almost 700 miles. You are a superstar. You are superhuman. Whit Weisbrom did 630.749 miles, and Van Fan did 603.507 miles. That is just really incredible. Incredible. Wow. All right, now that my mind has been blown away, was another race that I wanted to talk about called the Resolution Run. It took place on December 31st at Travelers Rest in South Carolina. This is a really cool race. They had a 10 hours and a 5 hours distance. And the 10 hours distance is really cool because out of the top 4 finishers, 3 of them were women. So well done, ladies. Very good. Bonnie Alexander finished first at 61.2 miles. Kenneth Height, 56.7. Lindsay Walter, 56.7. Kenneth and Lindsay finished together. And Maggie Fowler came in 53.1. So that is really amazing. So good going. I think that's great. And I think these timed races really make men and women not that different, that they can pretty well come in more equal than not. A lot of times it just really equals out things. Many, many times you see women coming in closer to men than on the outside in the trails. I don't know though. That one on a high school track, I don't know about that. I don't mind like a 1 mile loop, but high school track, I don't know about that. I'd have to think about that long and hard before I do something like that. I just don't know. It's hard on the body to go that far on such a tight turns like that, but they seem to do it. But that is this week's Tales of the Trail. And as always, if you want to have me talk about your race, email me. Email me at martharunstheworld@gmail.com. Email me your name, the race you ran, what it was called, of course, where it was, the date, how it went, and why you liked it or why you didn't like it. And I will definitely read it on the show. And that is Tales of the Trail this week. Okay, and that is this week's show. And remember, I have a brand new Beginning Runners series starting on YouTube on the 17th of January, and the link will be on the show this week on the website at martharunstheworld.com. Every week I'll put out a new episode, so be on the lookout for that. Everything will be on the website at martharunstheworld.com. Please, if you want to be a Patreon, that would be really terrific. You can sign up right there at the button on the website. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the road or the trail, because I will start running again next month. Woohoo! Yay! So we'll see you soon, and let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.